Gloves, Episode 2, Week 3. Um, I'm your host, Paul, and today I'm going to have special guest Jeff Clifton in here joining me. So go ahead, Jeff, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Jeff Clifton. I am an Ohio State fan. I've known Paul for a little while.
A
We've
little
been
while.
watching Ohio. No. We watched Ohio State games for a while, so I think I know a little thing or two about college football. So I'm kind of excited to see where your head's at about it.
Yeah, for
Where
sure.
the
Me,
game's
me
going.
too. And CJ's still out with COVID, and Nate unfortunately had some other things going on, so he could not make it this week. But I want to thank Jeff for being my special guest. And moving on from that, we're going to go ahead and jump into our rankings, Jeff. So, if you have the Twitch stream up, does it show you the rankings?
It does not show it right now.
Okay, it should be up here any second. Give me one. So, any luck, Jeff, or no? It doesn't seem to be showing it for me either. Which is weird. And Jeff, what's my stream saying to you? Is it just frozen?
Some interesting stuff you're doing there.
Yeah, that I got going on here. Can't hear me. Can you hear me, Jeff?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so you can hear me good now. What's my stream saying to you? Back now, had to refresh. What does my stream look like?
You're on Discord.
Okay, give me half a second. You can hear me, Jeff? Jeff, are you able to hear me?
Yeah.
You can hear me. Okay. All right, so we're good to keep going. So, welcome to Drop the Gloves, episode 2, week 3. Um, I'm your host, Paul, and I want to thank Jeff for stopping by and filling in.
Okay.
Special guest here, Jeff. Nate, unfortunately, couldn't make it this week, and CJ's still under COVID protocol. So, Jeff, thanks for
You're
stopping by.
welcome. Appreciate having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, so stream should be good now. Everything's set. And we're going to go ahead and get started, Jeff, and move on and show our rankings. So, what I did was I did up arrows and down arrows on where my rankings were and new teams that jumped into it. And then the other teams that didn't move, as you can see. You have an interesting top 25 here, Jeff. You care to explain some of your reasoning?
Yeah. I don't care. Uh,
So, I was going to start out with saying you have Clemson pretty low.
I don't like their offense. I don't think that they're really ready. I think if they get in the playoffs, they're gonna get exposed.
Okay, that's fair. And I was going to say I will correct your top four.
I think they're legit this year. They had 3 picks against Indiana. They had 3 picks against Iowa State. Uh, their defense is very good. I just think that their offense might have to get the ball rolling a little more. They're kind of a they're really run heavy team,
Yeah,
like with
I
that Eric
actually
Sticks.
I like what I saw out of Iowa. That's why I moved them up 4 spots in my latest rankings. So actually, fun fact here for you, Jeff. In their last 8 games, 7 of them, including the Big Ten, they have won all of them dating back to last year, and by a margin of 22 points,
Mm.
which is kind of insane. And then Oregon jumped to number 4 for me. You had them at number 3. I
Yeah,
I,
I
I
think
jumped all the way up there to 4, but I think it's hard to keep them out of the top 5 at this point.
yeah they proved that they're gonna hang for a while, even
Yeah.
with without their two best defensive players.
Yeah, and both of us dropped Ohio State pretty handily. I dropped them 6 spots, and I'm not sure where you had them to start out, but you did drop them to the 10 spot.
I
An
thought they were
interesting team for me that I have to explain. You can go ahead about what you were going to say about Ohio State. Sorry.
oh, you're good. CJ just has his problems with his overthrows. It looks like our guys just aren't catching the ball like they were last year. I mean that also goes up to like CJ just overthrowing the ball a lot. Defense just doesn't have it. Gives up way too many big plays, way too many third down conversions. They had them at 3rd and 16s and 3rd and 13s, and they would get it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh, they
I
ha-
agree.
they have to do something.
So we have some hot takes coming in here from the Twitch chat with Texas A&M being overrated and get Notre Dame out of the top 25. So both of those things I don't necessarily completely disagree with, except Notre Dame out of the top 25 is kind of steep. But as you can see, I dropped Notre Dame 4 spots after a win, and Texas A&M 3 spots
Notre
after a
Dame
win as
will
well.
they will probably be out of the top 25.
Yeah,
I see it.
and I can see it happening. I moved UCLA up a decent amount. That's one of my biggest jumps. Um, and another thing that kind of caught my eye when it comes to Notre Dame and Texas A&M, both were very unimpressive. Jeff, Texas A&M a 3-point win with only 10 points up against an unranked Colorado team. Granted, it was on the road and tough, but they're supposed to be a top 10 team, and I just don't
Yeah,
see a top 10 team doing that. And then Notre
you got to
Dame
score more. You got to
almost
score
lost to
more points.
Toledo on Saturday.
Yeah, yeah. And then went to the wire with Florida State, who lost to Jackson State,
Yeah,
and that's
Jacksonville
fiasco.
State. Yeah,
Jacksonville State.
yeah. Like just not good looks around there. One of the strongest teams
Mm-mm.
in this list that I struggle with putting a little bit higher right now is Cincinnati, and that I think that could change this weekend. They got a big stretch of 2 games this weekend, uh, and they've looked impressive in their wins, but they have only played Miami, Ohio, and Murray State, so it's kind of hard to put them a lot higher than what they are without
You
like
know,
a deep resume. But they're starting to look more and more impressive compared to the other teams.
you want to hear a hot take though, Paul?
What is that?
I might have UC in my top four at the end of the year.
I mean, they could have the resume to do it as long as they win the next 2 weeks, which is Indiana and Notre Dame. Uh, that's gonna be a huge game at Notre Dame, by the way. Humongous
Hey,
game.
ginormous.
Yeah.
I'll be glued to the TV.
There's some good games coming on this weekend, and I got that later on in the presentation that we'll go over. But UCLA impressed me, but one of the more impressive teams also has got to be Penn State at this point. Uh, I mean, they
I'll
have 2
100% agree.
really good wins. I mean, the second one was against Ball State, which wasn't that great, but what Penn State was able to do to Wisconsin and then still maintain it because Penn State in previous years has been good, but what we've seen out of Penn State the last 2 or so years is they'll compete with some teams that they really shouldn't be close to. You have them at number 8, which is the same place I have. And I think right now they're looking like a better team than Ohio State.
I do too. I think if Ohio State plays them in the next few weeks, they're gonna lose.
Yeah, so we got a question coming in. Georgia best defense. As of right now, I think that's fair to
Yes,
say. Yeah, I
10
would
sacks.
say yes. I would
I
say
would 100% agree with that. 1,000%.
second. I would almost debate between, I would say Alabama and Iowa at that point. Iowa's had a really
Yeah,
solid defense as well.
Iowa's defense is pretty stingy.
Yeah, and
I
another
I
team
hate it.
I'm on the rise for is UCLA. So Chip Kelly and UCLA finally starting to get that that team around there on the West Coast.
I wasn't I wasn't fooled until they beat LSU. That's when I really thought that they could maybe give Oregon a run.
Yeah, they could, and this is all good for the Pac-12 here, Jeff. Like that's what they needed. Like the Pac-12 almost needed that win over Ohio State.
Yeah, they did 100%. I was kind of thinking that when was the next time they were going to get a team in?
I know.
Oregon seemed like they were all their only chance every year, and they just haven't really performed right that great.
Yeah, and another team I was impressed by is at my number 19 spot, and that's BYU. They won again against a Utah team that was in the rankings before, and they've had back-to-back big weeks, and that's just I mean they're on a team on the rise. Same with Auburn, and definitely Arkansas showed Texas what was up.
Yeah, that I mean Texas is kind of known for their bad defense. SEC. I mean Arkansas. It was kind of surprising considering that the last 3 years they had a losing record. When was the last time they went bowling?
Right, it's been a while. Jeff.
What?
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, that's I agree. And looking at the discrepancies in our rankings, uh, besides like a couple teams being here or so, one or two spots in between, which is something you're gonna find, I do not have Ole Miss in my rankings.
Ole Miss.
Yeah, I
I
think
have
they have potential, but I just don't see them being better than one of these teams. And when you talk about the SEC, I think Arkansas beats them right now.
I agree. I just think Matt Corral, their quarterback, I got him as a Heisman. I got a Heisman hopeful. I think he's gonna.
Yeah.
He's
Also a
performing
team.
pretty well right now.
Yeah, I agree. It's hard to ignore what's been done, but the only issue is we're going into week three, so we don't have too much to go off of this year.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but another team that actually looked really good, as much as I hate to say it, is Michigan.
They dominated Washington. They dominated them.
Yeah, back-to-back weeks where they've won. I'm sure Robbie is happy to hear that, but Robbie made a bold pick last podcast, and he said that Michigan would beat Ohio State. If Ohio State's defense looks like what it did, there's a lot of teams that could beat Ohio State.
I don't know. I just Ohio State's offense is still just insane.
Yeah, I agree.
A lot of teams can't keep up with that.
Yeah, so we get a comment in here. Ohio gives them 2 years to develop them back into top four, or they're too young. I actually think that it's not out of the realm of possibility for them to make it back this year. Um,
Yeah, no,
they
they could
lost
100.
early enough to a good enough team.
They 100% could make it back. Oregon, I see Oregon making it to the playoffs in the end of the year, and they didn't lose by much.
Yeah.
They only lost by 7 points.
Yeah, and if anything, if Iowa keeps it up, that's going to be a hell of a Big Ten championship game.
An awesome Big Ten championship game.
Yeah.
And if we come out and our defense plays the way they should, then I see no problem with putting Ohio State in the top four at the end of the season.
Yeah, me either. Overall, I like the rankings. I think we had some pretty similar ones. Overall, I think I had Clemson a lot higher than you did, but I can understand why you dropped them so low. I'm kind of basing them off reputation. Um, but Notre Dame and
Dabo,
Texas A&M just keep looking worse and worse to me.
yeah, I 100% agree. I just Clemson couldn't score a touchdown against Georgia. I mean, this Georgia the best team, best defense in the country, but you gotta muster up some offense there.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that.
If they play Alabama, I think it's the same way. I think they
Yeah,
get boat raced even more.
yeah, and there's a lot of teams right now that are just under Alabama's level, and that's the majority of college football
Yeah,
at the moment. I mean, it's still early, but the tide looks like they're back again with the same thing every year you expect out of Alabama. And moving on from this, anything catch your eye, or you want to talk about the rankings at all, or anything?
you like Maryland?
Maryland, I do like Maryland. Yeah, so they're 2-0, and they did have a win on the road against West Virginia in week one.
Yeah,
Um, that's why I have them where they are, because I think that I think Maryland's could be a decent team. I don't have them anywhere near my top 10, but I want to give credit where it's due. there's anybody likely to drop out of my top 25, it's going to be Indiana, and I think they lose this week. But we'll move on to that. Now, the next thing we're going to hop over to is our Heisman hopefuls, Jeff. So I got my five listed and your five listed, and the top three are all the same. And then after that, it kind of switches up a little bit.
I honestly, Chris Olave at 4 for me.
Yeah.
That is honestly my Heisman hopeful. I'm looking at him. He has 243 receiving yards, which is absolutely insane when you think about 2 games played. He just needs to have more receiving touchdowns. That's the only thing. In his loss to Oregon, he had 126 receiving yards. He's averaging 15 and a half yards per catch. The
Yeah.
man's a monster.
Yeah. There's a lot of talk about him being the best receiver in college football. And one thing that wasn't on my Heisman hopeful last week, but we both could not ignore this week, was C.J. Verdell.
Yeah.
I mean, absolute. His game that he just had at Ohio State is literally
He's
a
special.
Heisman moment game.
He's special.
Yeah, he is. And then we're switched up at number 5 here. I went with Desmond Ritter for out at the quarterback for Cincinnati. And you went with
I
Matt
do
Clark.
have Desmond at 6.
Okay.
I wrote him down here at the end. I thought that if he has 2 big games against Notre Dame and Indiana, he could easily slip up to being in the Heisman hopefuls.
Yeah. So you don't have DJ from Clemson. I noticed that.
No, I'm not. I'm not too high on him just yet.
Okay.
Same with C.J. Stroud. I just don't think they're ready yet to be in the Heisman hopefuls yet.
That's fine. I completely can understand that. One part about it for me is, I guess it can. This kind of, hay bale, not hay bale. What am I looking for? Anyway, snowball effect into the next topic. But Kayshon Buddha is a sleeper most receiving yards in NCAA. That's a fair take, Jackson. We can bring that up next week for Heisman. So there's not a lot of shakeup there at the top there. Bryce Young and Spencer Rattler are the top two, but this
Yeah.
snowball affects into my major topic for the podcast this week, Jeff, and that is who is more likely to make the playoff this season? Ohio State and Clemson, both with one loss already within week 2 and week 1. But who is more likely to make the playoff?
I think.
It's tough.
Oh, that is a tough one. I don't think Ohio State will do it with Kerry Combs still as defensive coordinator.
Okay, so you're leaning towards Clemson's more likely to make the playoff.
I think Clemson's with their schedule. I don't see them losing another game. And maybe the ACC championship game if they meet Virginia Tech.
Which is still not a great win, really. Virginia Tech is a ranked team, but it's not like you have a top 10 team on your resume. And I'll go with the flip side of it.
I could see VTech getting upset by West Virginia this week.
Yeah, it could happen. I could see that as well. So I put down a couple of bullet points here for each team. But if you're Ohio State and you don't lose the rest of the year, I think you're still sitting in a pretty good spot. But your schedule is pretty unforgiving at this point. I mean, you're going to have to play Wisconsin, Penn State, and more than likely Iowa, along with Michigan.
Ohio State wins out, no question, they make the playoffs.
It's just, is this team going to be able to do it? I mean, so looking at their schedule here, Jeff, and the teams from my rankings, they have Maryland on the schedule, which they're in the bottom of my rankings. They got Michigan on the schedule, obviously. Michigan State is in the rankings as well. And then you got Iowa, more than likely, in the Big Ten championship. You got Wisconsin and Penn State still. Like, you're playing probably 4 or 5 more ranked games, but the thing is, Clemson doesn't have to play those tough games to where they could slip up. Like, they're going to be playing weaker opponents. But if both win out, you give Ohio State the edge?
Yeah, I do. Even with Clemson's good defense, I just don't think their offense is going to hang with anybody in the playoffs.
Okay. I mean,
Paul,
I can
I
see
got a
that.
question.
Yeah, what's up?
You getting 2014 vibes?
2014 vibes. I saw Haskell Garrett post about if they lost once in 2014, we could do it again in 21. The issue is Their defense, like
Yeah.
they lost 35-21 to Virginia Tech in 2014. Then they lost 35-28 to Oregon with a couple questionable calls, but that is definitely not why they lost. I will be the first person to tell you that. Uh,
Mm-mm.
the fake holding call that C.J. Stroud picked up the first time, they shouldn't have been in that position for one, giving up way too many big plays. This Ohio State team doesn't remind me of 2014 for the simple reason is that 2014 team has the most. It's still known as the most stacked roster in college football history because
They
it
were
broke records
gritty.
for NFL players on it. 48 of the 55 players made at least a practice squad in the NFL. I don't see that with this team. They
No,
don't
I
have
don't
a
either.
they don't have a Bosa or a Chase Young type player, and even on offense, like they had Zeke and Michael Thomas on that team.
I think Travion Henderson's our Zeke.
Yeah, okay. I'm actually really a fan of Mayan Williams, the running back from Winton Woods,
Yeah.
for Ohio State. I think he's been pretty good. Master T didn't get the ball very much, but
I heard something that we're gonna try and get Master League more involved as the season gets going. What
good,
do you
good.
think? Do you think he's somebody? You think he should be starting?
I personally don't think he should start, but I think he should at least get touches. He's a big body running back, and Travion Henderson is going to be good and
He's
like
just young.
like bunch packages, where you can have multiple running backs in. I think he's a good option to throw out of the backfield, but I don't know, man. Like like I said, who's more likely to make the playoff though? I think you almost got to lean Clemson. They don't have another,
Yeah.
but this is where it gets tough. If you have Alabama and they more than likely they'll play Georgia. I think a one-loss Georgia to only Alabama in the SEC championship still makes the playoff.
But you think Georgia still only loses one game?
I know that's what the tough part about us being this far into the season is you don't know, you can't guarantee anything when it comes to the playoff. But I picked Ohio State and Clemson as these two teams because they're both playoff teams from last year and they both already have a loss through 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, so who's more likely to make it? More likely, you'd almost have to say Clemson.
Yeah.
Like they probably have a higher percentage chance of making it, but Ohio State, it's almost like the ball's in your hands. But then again,
Good reference.
say Oregon doesn't lose for the rest of the year, you're not going to put in Ohio State over Oregon if
No,
Oregon beat
they have
Ohio
to
State.
win. Yeah.
So I see 5 teams majorly on the radar. Realistically, I see about 7 teams in college football that can make the playoff.
Do you think? All right. So hear me out. If if Alabama beats Georgia, so you have a one-loss Georgia.
Yeah,
Oregon wins out.
yeah.
Iowa beats Ohio State, and you still have Oklahoma undefeated.
Ooh. And say also throw in on that say Cincinnati goes undefeated against
Yeah,
Notre Dame and
UC
wins.
still goes. Yeah, you can still say UC goes undefeated too. What do you do there?
I think that's the hardest job the committee has.
That is tough.
At this point, I honestly think you take the undefeateds at that point. I think you don't take Clemson or Ohio State.
You leave Georgia out of it too.
I think you leave Georgia out. I think you go with Alabama, Oregon, Cincinnati, and who was the other? Oklahoma. I think that's the most fair way to do it, but I don't like. But then again, like that's all it shows is the college football playoff needs to expand it. We're obviously in week 3, so there's a lot of other like intangibles that are gonna, take place. There's gonna be
What
upsets
if?
still. You know what I mean? Like, there's no guarantee that even Alabama's gonna go undefeated. I mean, they got a tough game with Florida this week.
Where do you
Auburn
think
always upsets
the
someone.
playoffs should get expanded to?
I think it should be 8. The Power 5 conference winners should get an automatic bid. And then the other 3 should be up for debate each, and that's just how I think it is. Like Cincinnati would have made it last year, so like if you're basically, I don't agree with the if you go undefeated in FCS, you should make the playoffs because
Yeah,
FCS schedules are a lot weaker. I mean, I get you're supposed to be a weaker team, but if you're supposed to be a weaker team, then you shouldn't be competing with the big dogs.
yeah. What are you doing in the playoffs?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like you can play in the FCS playoffs. Like go with that. So
There's a
that's
reason
why I
why that.
think you see in those type of teams joining the Big 12 is a huge deal for them.
Yeah, yeah. It gives UC an actual chance to make the playoffs. I don't think in the AAC that they actually have a chance.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, even UCF proved it. I mean,
Yeah.
they did something that Alabama didn't that year, and that was beat Auburn, which is kind of crazy. And you agree with the eight, so I can kind of expand on this a little bit. So what I would do is the top five all get. Uh, so what it would be is you could still debate how it would be, but you get an automatic bid if you're Power Five. So say that you win the SEC, and everybody thinks the SEC is the best conference. You're the number one overall seed, Alabama, right? But
Hmm.
when you get to the shaky 4-5, usually you got the SEC and Big Ten are undisputable top two conferences right now. They have the most depth. But when you get to
Agreed.
the ACC, Big 12, Pac 12, you're kind of at a tough spot. And this is where the debate comes in. Because when it comes to a bracket, four plays number five. So what I would say is the committee decides who the number five team is, and they have to play on the road. So one plays eight, two plays seven, three plays six, four plays five. Or if you really wanted to do it, one and two get a bye. Three plays eight, four plays seven, five plays six. Which I
I
think
was
that
never
would
a bit.
probably be it.
I don't like the idea of a bye.
Yeah, I can kind of understand that, but I like the idea of a bye because that way, if you win your conference, you get a home playoff game. Like at that point, some team is getting left off for winning their conference. Do you get what I mean? Would you cut a
Yeah,
week out with an 18 playoff?
I
No,
got I got
I
you.
don't. You wait a month before the national championships play.
Yeah, we have a.
So I think you have plenty of time to play it in there. And think about all the revenue and everything that gets brought in. Okay, so if you did the top eight based off last year, right? Who would you have? You would have number one is Alabama, number two is Clemson, number three is Ohio State, number four is Notre Dame, was number five Georgia,
I think so.
and six was Cincinnati, right?
Yeah,
I'm trying to remember off the top of my head who seven and eight were. I want to say Oklahoma was there, and then, however, but say four plays five. Say that Cincinnati Georgia game is in the playoff, and Cincinnati goes to Georgia in the first round of the playoffs. Like everybody's gonna watch that.
that was a dogfight.
Like everybody's gonna watch that. Who wouldn't want to watch Oklahoma go play Clemson at Clemson in the playoffs? Like everybody's gonna want to watch that, right?
Yeah,
Like
it's
that's
a huge.
another
Those are
big
huge
game to
games.
put on too. Like you're playing another top team. Like there's no way out of that.
I just when I with the playoffs, I we have. I'm tired of seeing the same four teams, and I'm tired of seeing blowouts.
Yeah, the four seed is most likely getting blown out in almost every playoff. It seems like Notre
Yeah,
Dame is just not a playoff team to me. They remind me of Texas A&M a lot. I mean, they haven't proven anything in recent years.
they're just kind of there.
So we're gonna move on, Jeff, to our final part here, and that's predictions. So I went with our pick record on the college football pick'em. Everybody is more than welcome to join us for the college football pick'em app. Just go ahead and shoot me a text or comment here in the in the Twitch chat, and I will put you in. So my pick record over 2 weeks is 11-7. I definitely didn't have the best of week last week. I went 6-2 week one, and then ended up going 5-5 this past weekend. I did not pick the Oregon Ohio State upset. And then
I didn't
Jeff has
either.
7-3, so he's sitting pretty hot with his. But first off on the radar, we got Cincinnati going up against Indiana, where Cincinnati is getting 4 points on the road.
Uh, I'm gonna take Cincinnati. I think Ritter he just has to get the ball rolling in the start. The defense is gonna hang with all the best of them, just with that Indiana defense.
I
Jerome
agree.
Ford can go in. I think that run game can definitely wear down that Indiana defense, and its UC could definitely slip away with the win here.
Yeah, I agree. And the over under being 50, I think I'm taking the over.
Yeah,
So I think UC's offense is too
UC.
explosive.
Yeah, UC scored what 49 last game.
Yeah, and I saw Iowa, who I it's a debatable debatable if Iowa has a better offense than Cincinnati, and they put up how much, 37?
Yeah, 37.
So I get they had defensive touchdowns, but I think I'm gonna take Cincinnati here, and this is a marquee matchup for Cincinnati going on the road in a Big Ten environment. This is a
Huge.
big this is a big game that the committee's gonna watch because this is where you get to test your legit if you're legit
If
or not.
Cincinnati
This,
shows out, then it could be dangerous for the committee.
yeah, I also agree. This and next week are huge. So moving on, we got. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I just heard a noise on my computer side of me. Coastal Carolina going to Buffalo, where Coastal Carolina is getting 13 and a half. I think Coastal Carolina wins this game. They look like one of the most dominant FCS schools outside of Cincinnati.
Yeah,
Well, not not
last
not FCS. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
last year they looked good last year. I heard the story of their coach if they went and they won their conference, so he'd get a mullet. Now he's rocking a mullet this year.
Yeah,
Uh, but I don't think they win by more than 13 and a half. I think this game's closer. I think Buffalo's defense is actually pretty nice,
yeah,
but I
and
do think
on the
I
road
do
too.
think I do think they get the job done.
Yeah, and this is one of the most interesting games, most intriguing games here for me. Michigan State goes to Miami, and
I
Miami's
don't think
getting 6.5 points.
Miami is very very overhyped. I think
I think Michigan State wins this game. I'm picking Michigan State to win this game.
I was very very iffy about this game. I was already thinking about it. Um, I was
I'm
kind
not
of
sold on
surprised.
Miami, man.
I'm not either. I'm not either. They got boat raced by Alabama, and they squeaked out by Appalachian State.
Yeah,
I
2 point win over the.
I'll take Michigan State too.
Yeah, and it's not even like a Big Ten bias here. I think a different SEC team also wins this game. Just don't believe in Miami, and I
I
don't
think
know.
I think
They're
I
hanging
think
on by their
Arkansas wins.
fingernails to get in these rankings still. Like, how are what have they done to prove they should be a ranked team right now?
I beat Appalachian State by 2 points.
So another game in the noon slot, we got Nebraska going to Oklahoma, in one of the biggest rivalries in college football that's not played every year. I know this is Fox's big noon kickoff game. Oklahoma's favored by 22, and that's probably where I put this at. I think Oklahoma wins this game easily.
Yeah, big. Um, Scott Frost, he really hasn't shown me much at Nebraska. Uh, I just don't think that they really could that they really can go in to Oklahoma and actually upset them.
Yeah,
No way.
yeah,
No way.
I don't see it either. And over under being 61 and a half, that might all get scored by Oklahoma. They scored 76 last week. uh, And it kind of sucks to me that that's what's in the Fox slot, the Fox Big Noon kickoff, because there's better games around. But Cincinnati and Indiana and Michigan State, Miami are both better than that.
Oh yes.
And then we got Northern Illinois, NIU, who actually played a pretty close game, but now Michigan scratched their way into the rankings at their number 25. Northern Illinois going to Michigan, where Michigan's favored by 27. I'm taking Michigan to win, but I don't know if they cover that. That's a
No.
hefty. I think they could win by 20.
Is it bad that I just out of spite of not liking them I want to?
Yeah, yeah.
But
So
I
they,
but I will go with Michigan. They look dominant.
yeah,
2 good wins. Oh, and that Washington win looked really good.
yeah. It did. It was literally dominant from start to finish. They controlled the entire game. I don't think NIU is going to be able to compete.
No,
Nor,
not at all. I mean, I think they give a challenge maybe in the first half, but after that, it's over.
yeah. And the second last game in the noon slot, we got New Mexico going to Texas A&M, where Texas A&M is getting 29 and a half. I'm going to take the Aggies here.
Yeah, Aggies until they're kind of just here until they play Alabama, and then
Exactly.
they get exposed.
I think they're going to get exposed by a team different than Alabama this year, but we'll move on to that when we get to it. Then the last game in the noon slot for the ranked teams, we got number 15 Virginia Tech at West Virginia, where West Virginia, unranked, is getting 3 points favorite.
This is it's at home. That's the only reason why I want to take West Virginia here.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. This is another reason why I have Maryland in the rankings. They went to West Virginia and won.
Great win. It's a great win.
Yeah, Virginia Tech, just not another team I'm sold on. I mean, they have a good win against UNC though. I will say that they
I
beating North
I
Carolina was
mean
good, but this is a tough game to pick.
I don't know. I mean like that win against UNC was good. I mean I think they're gonna look forward to Notre Dame next week, and I think they lose to West Virginia.
Okay, so you're taking West Virginia.
Oh,
I'll take Virginia Tech slightly. It's probably 3 points or so. Now moving on to the lone game in the 2:30 slot for the rankings, and that is Purdue going to Notre Dame. Notre Dame's favored by a touchdown.
mm, Purdue. Uh, they they
They've played spoiler before, huh?
they have Notre Dame really hasn't showed me much as a
No,
team.
no, me neither. But I don't know if Purdue has enough to go into South Bend and take it away from them.
Oh, it's at home.
Yeah.
No, I don't think Notre Dame loses this one.
No, that's how I'm feeling too. Like I know that Notre Dame's had some close games against teams they really shouldn't, but at home, I just
I
don't see Notre Dame losing this game.
I think Toledo is better than people expect.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Tol- Toledo got votes to be in the rankings after that. Um, Now 3:30 slot. This is one of the biggest games of the weekend for sure, and that is Bama at Florida.
The only thing I have about Florida is Florida's turnover trouble with their quarterbacks.
Yeah,
They're they really have trouble, and I just think that if they can't keep that ball healthy against Bama, they're gonna lose.
Bama's getting 14 and a half. And I think Bama probably wins this game by about 13. 13 to 16 is where I'm going to
I,
guess. So I think the
I
spread's
think
accurate.
yeah, I think they cover the spread.
Yeah, I until Bama shows me something else that they're not the best team in the country, I'm probably going to pick them against anybody,
I mean,
home or away.
Nick Saban said it best. He does question their intent. So I want to see if they come out flat-footed against Florida.
Yeah, I agree. So moving on, we both took Bama there. Georgia Tech at Clemson. Clemson's favored by 28 and a half. Clemson should steamroll here.
Yeah, Clemson, their defense is probably going to single-handedly beat this team.
Yeah, that's what I was going to think too. Their offense won't have to do too much. It'll be a lot easier for them. I mean, they definitely put up points, but it's pretty easy when your defense is doing what they're doing. And then 3:30 p.m. slot again. Kent State goes to Iowa. Iowa's getting 22 and a half. I think Iowa has to. This has to be another day at the office type of game for Iowa to keep their ranking. I
Yeah,
don't think they can have a close game here.
they can't be looking ahead to other games. They have to definitely focus on who they're playing right now.
Yeah, I mean they're ranked number 5 in the country for the AP poll. Like,
I don't think Kent State really. There's there's no way they come into Iowa and into the Hawkeye Stadium and actually defeat them.
that's what I'm thinking. But if you're Iowa, if you want to keep on proving, like this just has to be another day at the office. Like you
Yeah,
have to
boat
go in,
race.
punch in, do your job, go win, and that's it. Get out of there. Get
Have your
ready for
starters
next
come
week.
out at halftime.
Yeah, and that's exactly what this next game should be. Tulsa goes to Ohio State, where Ohio State's favored by 24 and a half.
I have a feeling that at halftime this game's probably going to be close.
Really?
It'll be over. It'll like Ohio State's going to boat race them, but I already know how Ohio State plays. At halftime, this game will be close.
I think I'm kind of disagreeing with you here. I think I'm gonna go with Ohio State as coming out on fire after losing to Oregon last week, and I think they
You
come
think
out
so?
in boat race in the first quarter.
I would love to
Maybe
see it.
3, 4 touchdowns in the first quarter. That's my guess.
I would love to see it. I'm just not. I'm not too keen on them right now. As a Buckeye fan, I can't take them right now. Well, I'm gonna take them, but
Yeah, yeah. So
that defense needs help.
So moving on to 4 o'clock now. We only have one game here, and that's Georgia Southern going to Arkansas, where Arkansas is getting 23.5. Like I said, Arkansas is a team that has a lot of potential for me to move up. And I think that this is another game just like the Iowa game. Like you just go in, take care of business, and get ready for next week. Like these are your early in the season games that you're just playing to warm up for your conference. And
Get your
I,
guys ready.
yeah, get your guys ready. In Arkansas, you could play a spoiler this year.
Yeah, they have Alabama early on in the season.
Yeah. So
They they definitely could play spoiler.
yeah. So now I got South Carolina going to Georgia. The Gamecocks are giving the Bulldogs 31.5 points.
31.
Yeah. Georgia's favored
That's
by 31.5.
they're not covering that. I don't think.
You don't think so?
No.
Georgia's going to win this game.
Yes, 100%. I just don't think. I don't think they win by one. I don't think they win by 31.
That's fair. And now this is my potential here. This is game of the week for me, and this is the college football game day game. Number 22 Auburn goes to Penn State. Penn State's getting
Been like
6 points.
I've been like sitting up at night, debating on who I should take here.
I think
Auburn,
Penn State wins at home.
I don't.
That's a
I
tough
don't.
game though.
I'm not too keen on Bo Nix. Uh, I mean he's good. They put up a crap ton of points.
Yeah. The over under on this is 53.
It'll be over that. I think.
I think it will
I
too.
don't know. I don't know. Both of their defenses are so good. Like especially Penn State. I think if Penn State can hold Auburn to like under 30, kind of how Florida. If Florida can hold Alabama to under 30 points, they could beat Alabama.
Right.
They just have to hold them.
And that's nearly impossible.
But I'll take Penn State. I think Penn State will do it.
Is this their whiteout game? I know they usually do it for a conference game, but I know like they usually only do it with when like Ohio State or somebody comes to town, and Ohio State was there last year. So do we know if this is the whiteout game? If this is the
I have.
whiteout game, I'm taking Penn State. Oh, like
If this is the whiteout game, Penn State's winning by more than 2 touchdowns.
playing Penn State at the whiteouts. Like anyway,
The whiteout
whether
games
it's
are
not,
insane.
I think this crowd's gonna be excited here.
Booming.
Yeah, it's gonna be something crazy, and that should be a good game. Especially you always love to see it when the SEC matches up with the Big Ten, especially in ranked
It's
matchups.
it is always a good game.
Yeah, so I'm leaning a little bit more towards Penn State, and another game that they don't even have the spread for Stony Brook at Oregon. You got to take Oregon here.
Yes. Oregon kind of goes out first quarter, gets things done.
Yeah, that's how I'm feeling about it. Oregon for me had a close game with Fresno week 1, but I think that's more people not understanding how good Fresno is.
Fresno is a very underrated team.
Yeah, so we'll get to them in a minute, but um, as an Ohio State fan, I just gotta give props to the Oregon Ducks for what they did coming into Ohio Stadium to the shoe and doing what they did. There's no
Phenomenal.
excuses as to why they lost, as to why Ohio State lost, besides they got outplayed. And Oregon looked like
Outcoached.
the better football team, and they were outcoached. And Oregon was able to pick apart their defense, and I just got to give
On
all
every
my
play.
props. I got no excuses for you. I got nothing as to why they lost other than they got outplayed and outcoached.
I will 1000% agree.
So moving on, now we got University of Virginia here, Jeff, goes to North Carolina, where North Carolina's getting 9 points.
Virginia was good. What 2 years ago?
Yeah,
I don't know how good they did on the COVID season. But I don't see them beating UNC.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say too. UNC's fighting right now. They're trying to avenge that first week loss to
Against
Virginia Tech.
Tech.
Yeah, they're
Yeah, that was kind of just like a slip up, you know.
yeah. And I think all season they're going to be just trying to fight, fight, fight to get back to where they were.
I don't think they'll ever get back to where they were. I think they had their chance to maybe make the playoffs, and that loss.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Now we got Tulane going to Ole Miss.
Tulane.
Tulane Green Wave. They actually played a really close game with Oklahoma in week one. Uh,
I, I'm. I don't think Tulane's like amazing. I don't see Oklahoma's defense as good as everybody says it was going to be. Uh, they gave up a lot of too many good plays against Tulane.
yeah, I'm taking Ole Miss in this game. They're getting 14. I think Ole Miss is able to win this and move to 3-0,
Yeah,
and that I think they'll
Ole Miss,
correct my rankings next week.
Ole Miss will cover. I think.
Yeah. Now the late slot actually has a pretty good game here, Jeff. And by the way, that Tulane at Ole Miss is the highest over/under game on the slate with 76.
Oh,
That's high.
76.
Yeah, that's high.
Extremely high.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I might bet the under on that, just because that's such a high scoring game.
I want to say over so bad. We go under.
So this late slot game, there's two of them that are really kind of interesting to me here, Jeff. The middle one isn't as interesting, but Arizona State is going to BYU. This is two ranked teams. Number 19 Arizona
I
State
didn't
is
know.
going to BYU 23, and Arizona State on the road is getting 3.5 points.
I didn't know if Arizona State was going to be at home or if they were away. I predicted that BYU win against
Utah.
Utah last week,
Yeah, so did
and
I.
I I think they win again this week.
I that's how I'm feeling too. I'm a big believer in the Cougars. They're still not getting back. There's just a lot of non-believers since Zach Wilson left.
Paul, I can't hear you.
You still can't hear me?
Hello.
Can you hear me? 1 second. Jeff,
There we go.
can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, like I was saying,
I don't know what happened.
yeah, that's weird. What I was saying is there's not a lot of teams that are believers or people that are believers in BYU after Zach Wilson left.
Yeah, I'll
And
agree.
and I think that they're taking that disrespect personal. And they're out to prove it. And I still think they feel disrespected being at 23. I
Herm
think they're a pretty
Edwards is
good
a
team.
good coach for Arizona State. I think that he very well could get the job done.
Yep.
Do they still have Marvin Lewis as a defensive coordinator?
That I do not know.
I remember for a while they had him. That's where he was.
Really?
Yeah. Um, I think BYU still gets it done though
Yeah, I do too. I think this is a
at
pretty
home.
good game though. This is for the
It's
so
especially
since
if
starting noon
BYU.
for us all the
Sorry.
way through 10:15, there should be at least one or two good games on at all times.
If BYU gets this done, it's huge for them to begin the Big 12.
Yeah. Yeah, there is. Like there's no BYU has no reason not to be in the top 20 after this.
Yeah, maybe
So,
even top 18,
yeah, I
17.
mean, they're already in that in mine. And if we go back, I have BYU at 19 and you have them
I
at
have them at
20.
20.
So, the middle game on the slate is Iowa State at UNLV, and Iowa State's getting 30 points. UNLV is just not good.
Yeah, and I think especially after that loss to Iowa, they're gonna come out to the bench.
Yeah, I think Iowa
Well,
State covers this too.
I they really just got exposed by Iowa. Um, I think that they need work, and this game is definitely a good game for them to work on a lot of things.
Yeah.
So I think they come out and they cover.
So the last game on the slate, We got 10:45 start time. Over under 62 and a half. Uh, Fresno goes to UCLA, number 13 UCLA. UCLA's
I'm
getting 11 and a half. I'm gonna go with UCLA here, but I think Fresno covers.
I'm very keen on UCLA this year. I think that LSU win was very, very, very good.
Yeah, the Pac-12 has got wins over the SEC and Big Ten in the first 2 weeks against supposed good teams from those conference. I mean, I'm sure Ohio State will still be ranked as Ohio State, but LSU, like you're supposed to be,
You're a well-known school,
yeah, that's how I'm feeling about it.
big top name football program.
And they got steamrolled. They didn't even just lose like a close
Yeah,
game. Like they was not close.
it was not at all. I
Yeah,
think, especially at home, UCLA. Uh, I think it's a lot closer.
yeah. I mean, Fresno. I was literally almost debating about taking Fresno in this game after seeing the way they played against Oregon, but I just think UCLA is too big in the trenches.
I want UCLA to be as good as possible for when they meet Oregon. I think that's a huge playoff contention
Yeah,
implication.
yeah. That
UCLA
definitely
gets a
makes sense.
dub against Oregon. I think UCLA could maybe slip up to the top four.
The fact that it's only 4 spots and there's this many teams is still crazy. Well, with that one, Jeff, I think we're gonna close it up. All right, man.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for stopping by, though. It's greatly appreciated, and I hope to have you on again. Or you're gonna hang out in the chat, I'm sure, for the next one. Thanks for tuning around, everybody in the chat, and it's greatly appreciated. And I'll see you guys next week. Thanks, Jeff.
Appreciate having me, man. Thanks for having me.
No problem.
All right.